Welcome to this week's Jackson County Board of Commissioners meeting. Your Board of Commissioners, overseeing these dedicated county departments. And now, your county commissioners, working together for the citizens of Jackson County.
Good morning and welcome to the Jackson County Board of Commissioners meeting here, December 21st, 2011 at 9:30 a.m. at the Jackson County Courthouse Auditorium. Please all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'd like to ask Fiona Nevins, who's here as a student observing today, to lead us in the pledge. Fiona? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Fiona. Okay, now let's see. We have a special presentation this morning. We'd like to recognize the Hulbert Trust and the folks that are here from the Hulbert Trust and have them come forward. We want to recognize them for their gift today. This is a gift from the Kenneth A. and Lucille D. Trust presented by Adrian Snyder of U.S. Bank. So, if I may, and Don Denman is with them, so that's good to see you, Don. See you. If I may, I'd like to talk about this.
Sure.
All right. The Hulbert bequest has afforded Jackson County Library Services to provide residents with enhanced services and resources. Key among these are, for mature readers, adult basic computer course. To date, more than 134 session courses have been presented to nearly 5,000 adults who now have the new skills to enrich their personal lives, search the internet for information, and to brush up on basic job skills. Another item, a resume writing software package licensed for all branches that is the same used at the Job Council, thus allowing persons to go from the Job Council to the public library and easily continue working on and updating their resumes. Next item, a patron technical support services and workshops to provide hands-on assistance in downloading audio books and e-books to a variety of mobile devices. Also workshops in basic Facebook skills. Next item, addition to value line to the reference database accessible to the JCLS library website. Now, this is for the 6 to 16-year-olds. Item, book talks with middle schools. More than 2,000 youths in nearly all school districts in the county have been introduced to some of the most important and entertaining books available for the young adult audiences. Next item, an 11-piece mobile laptop lab with LCD projector to use in workshops and training in branches around the county. Next item, 5W, what is it? Do you know that stuff? Why? What is it?
Wi-Fi.
Wi-Fi.
I have no idea what it is.
Wheeze, 5 wheeze. Okay, that's technical. All right. Looks like I'm going to be in the mature readers program. So, 5 wheeze, flat screen TVs, and games to use in programming for children and teens to bring them into the library. Next item, additions to the JCLS collection, particularly books added to the young adult collection. Also, the bequest has enabled the purchase of courtesy collections of books to circulate among clients of organizations providing after-school services and services to homeless youth. Last item, enhanced summer reading programming. This bequeath this year is $124,533. What an outstanding contribution to the community. All right. Gentlemen, do you want to add some words here?
Well, I just want to say this is such a big deal. You know, Lisa White ran the figures for me, and this is the third year. The first year was 111,000. The next year was 113. And this is 124,000. We're total 349,000. I mean, that's a big boost to our library system, and we really appreciate it.
Thank you. Don?
There's really not much for me to add except thank you.
That's a switch. Come on, don't you want to see that? No, I'm kidding. All right. Did you want to add some comments, Don?
I think Adrian wants to say a few words, and then I'll say a couple.
Okay.
Well, thank you. It is a wonderful gift from the Hulberts. I'm Adrian Snyder here from U.S. Bank as trustee for the Hulbert Trust. My coworker, Denise Bowe. And what a wonderful time of year to be making a gift like this to the library. And we're just very impressed with the work that our libraries are doing to put these funds to work for the people here in Jackson County. So first of all, let me hand over the check.
We're all witnesses. I can't kick off with it. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And let me turn it over to Don Denman. Don was the attorney for the Hulberts, and he has some insights into why they made this gift.
Well, I was privileged to know the Hulberts both as their attorney and as a personal friend over many years. Ken and Lucille Hubbard were Rogue Valley residents for years and years. They both taught in the Medford school system, and they had one son, Kenneth Jr., who was disabled and who died early in life. And for that reason, they wanted to make sure that the money would be used for good purposes connected with education. They were always obviously involved in education and really wanted to see the right thing done. And this gift that the bank is holding in trust certainly is accomplishing that. And I just want to compliment the U.S. Bank and give them a little plug in this day of economies to come up with $124,000 as opposed to the previous years is a pretty good trick. So I congratulate them for that. None of us have our interest rates doing nearly as well as they do. So it's a privilege for us to have gotten this bequest to the bank, and it's a privilege for them to allow the county to use it for this good purpose. Thanks, CW.
Thank you, and on behalf of our library folks and all of our patrons and the county and the citizens of Jackson County, we thank you for all your hard work, and God bless the Hulberts, and we know they're watching in good stead what we're doing today. So Merry Christmas to you all. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Martha?
Yeah, a little bit of everything.
John, I haven't met you. Nice.
I know you got your hands full. You bet. Thank you.
Our first item of business is item 1000. It's request for and discussion of non-agenda items. There's a 5-minute limit. Members of the audience may address any item not on the agenda. State statute prohibits the Board of Commissioners from discussing a principal subject that is not on the agenda, but the Board of Commissioners does listen to your concern and may ask staff to follow up on any questions you may raise. An extension of the 5-minute limit may be approved by a majority of the board. Is there anybody wishing to speak on non-agenda items today?
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning, Mr. Chancellor. Please identify yourself and address for the record.
Central Point, 6865. Well, not at 6865 Table Rock Road anymore, am I? How about 640 Raven Road, Central Point, Oregon? Commissioners, I think in October sent you guys a rough 2011-word email describing what I thought was real questionable actions on the previous administration, county council, and the administrator, your predecessors. And I asked that I get some sort of response from that, and I have received nothing. And I was just curious Do I need to send something again, or would there be some way that could be answered back by staff or someone?
Well, Mr. Chancellor, at the time you were in, it was a litigant issue that you had going on with the county in relationship to coming before a hearings officer. So in that regard, we did not respond because of the legal aspect of your issue. So that's why we didn't respond at the time.
The one I'm talking about is a complete separate issue. It didn't address my land use issues with you guys at all. It was addressing the denial of the jury trial and Chapter 294's creation that denies jury trials in civil matters anymore in Jackson County, and those land use issues going before an administrative court.
I would suggest, and I will ask legal counsel, do you recall that particular response or that particular issue?
I do. I remember receiving a correspondence from you about the your view that there was a right to jury trial in an administrative proceeding held by the county. It was my understanding that that was a defense you were asserting to those proceedings, and that's why we didn't respond.
I tell you, I'll redo it, send it again, and we can start all over. It's nothing that there's a big time limit on, and in all honesty, I was a little.
I'd be happy to talk to you. Yeah, just come by, give me a call. We could talk about it. I have your letter already, so we can. Okay. We can discuss it now.
All righty. So, thank you very much.
Commissioner
Kurt, I thought I did respond to you on that. I thought that I did respond and made reference to jury trials and on small items. Not that this was a small items, but I'll look back. But I think I have an email. I think we had some.
Well, and I think there's a little confusion on the two emails too.
Okay.
One of them was regarding a jury trial of right by myself and the land use issue that we were dealing with. The other is what I'm considering is possible malfeasance of office and conspiracy charges against your predecessors for the elimination of that right to the people of the county. It's a separate issue completely.
Okay, I'll check it out.
And that's probably my fault, the way I sent it. I was a little bit upset.
So you'll be getting together with
yes.
Ryan.
Thank you. All right.
Mr.
Thank
Chair,
you very much.
Yeah.
just might I suggest in terms of his assertions, they really are legal issues, and probably isn't best even if the board did respond rather than to have county counsel respond. However, county counsel, I don't know if you remember or not, did advise, and that may be why Commissioner Rasher responded, did advise to the legal position of the county on this to you. Of course, that's not public record because, as you stated, it was part of an ongoing litigation. However, what Ryan's suggesting is he can explain the same reasons why he feels that the assertions are not correct to Mr. Chancellor, if Mr. Chancellor is willing to meet with him.
Sure, certainly.
Of course.
Okay. All right.
Thank
you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody else wishing to speak on non-agenda items? Anybody wishing to speak on non-agenda items this morning? There being no one else, I'll move on to the consent calendar. Item 20.00, item 20.01 is the Board of Commissioners work session, October 25th, 2011. The Board of Commissioners regular meetings to July 20th and August 10th, 2011. And Board of Commissioners staff meetings, July 7th, July 14th, and August 4th, 2011. Chair will entertain a motion on the consent calendar.
Mr. Chair, I move we approve the consent calendar as presented.
Second that.
Moved and seconded. Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Rasher?
Yes.
Commissioner Scudder?
Yes.
Commissioner Smith?
Yes. Moving on, item 30.00 is a public hearing. Ladies and gentlemen, I will tell you on this public hearing, oral testimony given during a public hearing shall be limited to 5 minutes per person. If you have additional information to give beyond the 5-minute limit, you are encouraged to submit it in writing to our staff who are seated to my right. An extension of that time may be approved also by a majority of the board if you so need. With that said, item 30.01 is a public hearing in the matter of reassigning the ambulance service area number 1 to the Rogue River Fire District, order number 270-11. Danny?
As you said, Mr. Chair, this is a public hearing in the matter of reassigning the exclusive right to provide ambulance services in ambulance service area number 1. We're going to refer to that as ASA 1 hereforth. And this is from January 1st of 2012 through December 31st of 2014. And this will go to the Rogue River Fire Department. The Jackson County Ambulance Service Plan, and this is section 7.5 subparagraph C, does require you to have a public hearing and that it be held for the purposes that interested persons be able to voice their views regarding the selection of the ambulance service provider. Ambulance services in Jackson County are governed by Jackson County's Ambulance Service Area Plan, Service Plan. And under that plan, Jackson County is divided into 3 ambulance service areas. The Board of Commissioners is empowered by the plan to assign an exclusive license to operate ambulances in each of the 3 areas. In this case, the assignment of ambulance service area number 1 includes the city of Rogue River and the area of Weimar. The application process followed procedures prescribed in section 7 of Chapter 1075 of the Jackson County Codified Ordinances, which is commonly referred to as the ASA Plan, Ambulance Service Area Plan. Notice of this public hearing was published in the Medford Mail Tribune on December 7th of 2011, giving 10 days notice of the public hearing as required by law. Notice of contract expiration and application deadlines were also published in the Medford Mail Tribune in accordance with prescribed timelines. The only application received from was from the Rogue River Fire District. The board did review that information in a prior work session, if you'll recall, and which was submitted by the applicant. You were provided a staff report at that time and considered other information before we scheduled this public hearing. The Rogue River Fire District is current ambulance service area provider for ambulance service area number 1. The current assignment does expire on December 31st of 2011. Probably particular appointments to both the citizens and yourself is the fact that there were no changes in the established rates. They didn't request changes in those rates. Approval of this reassignment will help to ensure the citizens of Jackson County continue to receive timely and effective emergency ambulance services. In this case, there is no direct financial impact to Jackson County.
All right. At this time, I'll open up the public hearing. So is there anybody wishing to speak on this issue to come forward and speak, identify yourself for the record? Anybody wishing to speak on this issue during the public hearing process? Nobody wishing to speak on this issue during the public hearing process. I hereby close the public hearing. Discussion among the board.
Well, I just want to say that the Rogue River Fire District has an excellent reputation out in that area, and they do a good job.
I think it interesting here, the comments here is that they've consistently met or exceeded the ESA plan requirements. That's what we're always looking for in public services. So thank you very much for that and for taking care of the folks up there in the upper county area. Thank you.
All right. With that said,
Mr. Chair, with that, I move that we accept Board Order 270-11.
I will second that.
moved and seconded. Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Spencer.
Yes.
Commissioner Rowland.
Yes.
Commissioner Smith.
Yes. Item so ordered and approved. Harvey, could I bother you to grab my pen rather than have me try to toddle back down there? It's the blue one. It's the, yeah, one. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, I'm sorry I left it down there, so thank you very much. Next item is 40.00. It's discussion and deliberations. First item is 40.01. It's an order authorizing transfer of funds from the the general fund contingency to the Economic and Special Development Program and Award to Core Business Services, LCC, order number 271-11. Danny?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, one of the board's primary policy issues this year was to work towards bettering economic development in the county. The county has instituted multiple economic initiative activities. This is one of those activities. In this case, Jackson County Board Order number 182-11 authorized contingency funds to establish what is a grant program meant to create or lend to the creation of jobs in Jackson County. As part of the grant program, Southern Oregon Regional Economic Development Incorporated, who's represented here today and is commonly referred to as SOREADY, assists Jackson County in promoting Southern Oregon as an attractive place for sustainable businesses to launch and grow. Southern Oregon Regional Economic Development Incorporated also assists in facilitating the grant program and coordinating grant awards through this program. Southern Oregon Regional Economic Development Incorporated, in this case, has evaluated this application for grant funds and determined that Core Business Services LLC application meets the grant criteria and that they should be awarded a grant. You were also presented their review in a prior work session, if you'll recall, at which time you did direct staff to prepare an order transferring contingency funds to fund this particular grant request. As a result of this grant, it's estimated that Core Business Services LLC will create 13 additional jobs over the next 12 to 18 months. This is a financial expense of $26,000. It is budgeted as a contingency, which we will make a transfer to fund this should you approve it. And obviously, I do recommend your approval.
All right. With that said, we have some representatives from So Ready and Core here. Would you, even though we've talked about this at a previous meeting, would you like to come up and add any other comments? I see Alex Pulaski and
introduce Scott.
And Scott Anderson.
Morning, Commissioners. My name is Alex Pulaski. I'm the loan manager for So Ready, and in this is our first application to you. On behalf of So Ready, I do the vetting of the applications as they are forwarded to us. We look at them very seriously, much the same as if we had a loan application in front of us. And when it was all said and done, Core Business Services, through Scott Anderson's leadership, made application. We had discussions, Danny and Harvey as well. And this is a very viable company, prepared to double itself in size. And I thank you as a citizen as well as somebody working with you in collaboration that the county has stepped up and made this gesture to support business expansion within this county. Core Business Services is a high-tech company, and they typically pay good wages, and that's the kind of companies we wish to have in our community. And so so from my perspective, this is a very good thing. And so I think that Scott might have a word or two for you.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning,
Thank you. I'm Scott Anderson, President of Core Business Services, and just wanted to let you know how much we appreciate the county's commitment to helping you create jobs. We're excited about the continued growth of our company and being able to grow like that in Medford, where we want to be forever. So it's, I think, a great program. We appreciate the commitment to small business in the region and appreciate your consideration of us.
All right. Mr. Skundrich.
Scott, you got a moment or two. Tell us a little bit about Core Businesses. You got a real short segment here for a little advertisement, and so tell us this a little bit.
You bet. So Core Business Services is essentially becomes a company's IT department. So we started 6 years ago. We engage with companies maybe with 5 computers up to companies with 500 computers and assist them in anything related to technology. So rather than hire maybe an internal IT manager, we engage with companies, become their IT department, provide all of their remote and on-site support for them, and then manage their infrastructure and essentially become their CIO. So work with companies typically to save them money because they don't have to hire a single IT person internally, and we can lend kind of our expertise of currently 13 and growing people to their organization.
And these jobs are all here local?
All these jobs are here locally, correct.
Great.
Rasher.
Well, first I want to compliment you on your website. I looked it over in detail the other day, and you know, I have to say I'm skeptical of entrepreneurs because, you know, everybody's got a get-rich-quick scheme, but you're such a solid company. This is where I like to see this money go. I mean, you've got a proven track record. You know, you're going to move ahead, and so I'm excited to watch you grow, and I'm glad that we at the county could be a part of this.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, I'd like to thank our friends at So Ready and our partnership with them and all the things that you guys are doing and trying to do in tough times. And we know this is a difficult time for young businesses. And so, but we felt you were well worth the risk and opportunity to invest in your opportunities to expand and create jobs. So, Alex, thank you once again. And thank you, Scott, for all your hard work. But keep it up.
Yeah, we're planning on it.
Thank you.
Thank
Merry
you.
Christmas to you.
Thank you.
You bet. Thank you.
All right. We've had any more discussion on the item?
No.
Chair will entertain a motion on the order.
Mr. Chair, I move we approve Order 271-11.
I gladly second that motion.
It's been moved and gladly seconded. I hereby call the roll.
Yes.
Yay.
Yes. Item so ordered and approved. Our next item of business is 40.02, an order authorizing a Jackson County contract for services with Allied Heating and Air Conditioning Company, order number 272-11.
Mr. Chair, in this case, Jackson County does desire to replace the existing heating, ventilation, and air conditioning system and install a new heating system in the restrooms of the pageant pavilion at the Jackson County Expo located at number 1 Penninger Lane in Central Point. A bid walkthrough was held on November 29th of 2011 at the Expo Pageant Pavilion, located, as I said, at 1 Penninger Lane in Central Point. 4 contractors were invited to the walkthrough, and the bids were received as follows. Allied Heating and Air Conditioning Company bid $43,830. Metal Masters bid $43,897. FM Sheet Metal bid $45,433. SNS Sheet Metal bid $52,710. Allied Heating and Air Conditioning Company did submit the lowest bid, and they should be awarded the contract. It is a financial impact of $43,830. It is budgeted, and I do recommend your approval.
All right. Any other discussion on the item for the order?
I have none.
Well, I have a question. Is Allied Heating and Air Conditioning a local company? I was curious. I believe they are.
I believe they are too.
All right.
I know that they're doing work here in our county, and they dispatched. You know, the question of local is always a kind of subjective question.
Local workers.
Mr. Chair, I move that we accept Board Order 272-11 as presented.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Call the roll, please.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Item so ordered and approved. The next item of business is order authorizing, or 40.03, order authorizing the health facility remodel and parking garage construction project, order 273-11. Danny?
Right, Mr. Chair, as the board's aware, the current health facility and its outlying offices are old and inadequate in size for Jackson County Health and Human Services Department and do quite hinder our ability to deliver services to the public. We did purchase property at 333 West 8th Street in Medford with the intent of converting it to a new facility for Health and Human Services Department. You'll notice I did not say the post office, because what ends up happening is people start calling county facilities the old Safeway or the old post office, so we like to begin referring to them by their new addresses and hopefully their new names. In this case, this is a pretty major project. It consists of 2 phases. The first phase is to design and construct a parking garage that'll be in a location that is currently the parking lot at the rear of the existing facility. And the second phase is to design and remodel the existing building and warehouse areas for staff use. This is a global authorization for the project. However, there's multiple steps throughout this project, and this project is intended to extend for several years. In this case, the first part of the authorization includes architect contract with Ogden, Romer, and Wilkerson Architecture, commonly referred to as ORW. That was a contract that was determined through a process of request for qualifications. The authorization also includes construction contracts will be awarded and determined at a future date. As I explained to the board, this is a global authorization. However, as we bid or go through whatever process we go through to award those contracts, the board will be continually involved in those steps. This also includes any other contracts, amendments, addendums, agreements, or types of documents that might be needed to be executed throughout the process of this within the legal authority of the approval to do so. As with any project of this magnitude, it's impossible at this point to identify all the costs or agreements that will be necessary to complete the project. Authorizing any and all future amendments, addendums, contracts, agreements, or any other type of document related to this obviously will help us expedite the program. one of the main concerns when we bid a project, people put together a timeline, and if we impact their timeline because we need to go through bureaucratic processes, it increases the cost. So that is also one of the purposes of a global authorization for this project. The amount authorized for this project is $26,500. I will tell you that that is a number at this point. I'm sorry?
You mentioned it was 26,000.
Oh, I'm sorry, $26,500,000. Thank you for that. You know, you're good with commas and numbers.
He's a pilot. He has to be, you know.
In this case, that is an upper end of a number for a very rough estimate. What I do want to say is that the majority of this amount of funding is already authorized and approved as part of the existing budget. In other words, this is not new investment for the most part. This has already been approved and discussed and authorized by the budget committee in the current year we're in. So this was already something that was discussed last fiscal year. What you're doing today is now basically giving authority to execute the ability to expend those funds. Now, I said mostly because I want to be clear. There are a couple of additions that will be included in next year's budget that were reviewed with the budget committee when we went over setting budget targets. And of that $26.5 million, about $3.5 million will be added in next year's budget. That is for additional costs that we incurred over and above what we estimated we would incur for the construction of the parking garage and the number of spaces we're required to have. And about $1.4 million of that is for retrofitting the facility to meet the required seismic standards so that it can be occupied and not be a danger to the public we serve. But other than that, the balance of those funds are already budgeted and already approved for expenditure. If there's anything else you'd like me to explain, of course, I'm open to doing that. And at this point, I certainly recommend your approval. We'd like to see the project move forward.
Any questions for the administrator?
Well, Danny, you might explain this, as you've already stated, this for the Health and Human Services Department for Jackson County. Much of this fund's already coming out, their budgeting is coming out of their budget in their reserves. You might explain how that works to the public.
Sure. I'll try not to be too technical.
Yeah, just...
What this is the county made a conscious effort to actually use county general fund dollars to purchase the facility and to prepare the facility to be occupied. So preparing the facility to be occupied includes spending county general fund dollars on the parking garage and retrofitting the seismic requirements for the building. The reason why the county did that is the county wants to own the facility. If at some point the county ever decides we don't want to deliver these services via an intergovernmental agreement with the state of Oregon, we don't want the state of Oregon to own the building, we want the county to own the building. The other reason why we did that is this county investment, which may seem quite large at roughly $10 million, actually gives us the opportunity then to lease the facility to the Health and Human Services Department and recover a rather significant return on our investment. We anticipate at a minimum between this facility and the existing facility being able to recover $32 million over the next 20 years. So we're going to invest $10 million, but we're going to recover, as an estimate, and at the low end, approximately $32 million. The balance of those funds and outside of the county owning the building, having ownership of the building, are coming from not reserves, but what is called an ending fund balance in the Health and Human Services Department budget. That has been money that for years we've been carrying over in the budget with the intention of providing adequate facilities to be able to deliver services to the staff, to the community we serve. At this point, that ending fund balance represents about $16 million. However, the projection of $26.5 million includes a projection that that ending fund balance will utilize up to, and once again, it's hard for me to determine exact numbers this early in a project, up to and trying to be as conservative as possible. And conservative in this case means not under budget, up to $18 million in remodeling costs. However, that's based on a number per square foot of a hard remodel. We'll work backwards from that number, so we'll likely spend less than that number. Now, I just told you that their ending fund balance is $16 million. This budget accounts for $18 million. This is going to be a 3+ year project, and we anticipate that ending fund balance to grow each of the next 3 years, so that they'll be positioned to be able to fund the remodel and be able to occupy the building and still carry an ending fund balance to be able to mitigate any circumstances that the state might impose on us, or any of those kinds of things. So I think hopefully that answered.
Yeah, I thank you, Danny. I appreciate that. I think it's important for people to understand. Number one, this isn't a willy-nilly decision. Something's been building. And number two, there's money appropriated for it and a good stream of revenue. And number three, besides the benefit to the community as far as services, a central location for our 385 to 400 health and human service employees to give better service and to serve the service area which most of those customers come from. The other thing is that there's a financial return as well. I think it's important for folks to understand, because when you take a look at this, $26.5 million, you just gulp about that. But this has been well thought out. It's been well vetted by the Budget Committee, and I commend the county. This started before I came on board, but this is a big step, and I think it's really a good deal. But it's important that people understand that this money doesn't come from services from somewhere or another. This comes out of capital, and so it works out well.
Thank you, Commissioner Skundrich. Commissioner Rasher.
Well, something I want to add, Denny, in all these calculations, the $30+ million return, that also doesn't calculate the return on the buildings we'll be vacating, right? So we have the ability to lease or sell those?
Actually, I didn't intend to get into this fine detail, but I will. When I did a presentation to the Budget Committee for purposes of providing perspective, not for purposes of being exact in the projections, is that I took the square footage that we're going to occupy, 85,000 square feet, and the fact that we're going to provide parking, and put a number to a rental rate based on current market rates. And actually what I used is $1 per square foot for both the facility and parking combined. Now, the market rate last time we negotiated a contract was $1.40 just for a facility, so not including parking. So I was very conservative in my estimates on purpose. But at $1 a square foot at 85,000 square feet a month, you see that you get to $1 million a year, roughly. I'm rounding. And we enter into a 20-year lease. So that generates $20 million in revenue to the Jackson County General Fund. One thing that's very important about that is that becomes discretionary spending for the board. You can invest it in health and human services, but you can invest it in whatever else, public safety, libraries, wherever you think it would be best serve the public. It also creates what we call operating revenue to the county. It's not a one-time revenue. It's going to be a revenue that's going to be around for 20 years, and we can be dependent on it. We like those kinds of revenues because we can build capacity and service delivery to our citizens by being able to depend on revenue streams. That's $20 million of a roughly $32 million that I explained. We also own the old facility. We have the ability to outright, and the county owns it under the same premise. We have the ability to outright sell that facility and earn a one-time revenue, which we generally try not to do, or we have the ability to long-term lease that facility as well and generate a revenue. The balance of that $32 million or $12 million would come from assuming we would lease out all of the space at $1 a square foot for building and parking for 20 years, generates the other $12 million. So there's $32 million between both facilities.
All right. Any other questions?
No,
of the administrator?
Thank you.
This is a long time coming, and it will provide a great deal of services for citizens who are in need of health services and those programs by state and county services. So it's quite a momentous thing and a very positive thing as well, bringing a lot of folks into the core area of the city and utilizing that. So with that said, Chair will entertain a motion on the order.
Mr. Chair, I move we approve order number 273-11.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Rasher?
Yes.
Yes.
Commissioner Smith?
Yes. Now, to our students that were here, did that all make sense? Did that sort of?
There's going to be a test on those
There'll be
numbers.
a test, yeah. All right, next item of business is 40.04, an order appointing County Assessor Joshua O. Gibson, order number 274-11. Danny?
All right, Mr. Chair, hopefully you bear with me for a few minutes, given the article, which probably didn't fully adequately represent the process here and didn't provide much information that would have offered a lot more clarity. I'm going to take the opportunity to do that in addition to what I might normally disclose to you in this case. In this case, Dan Ross, who was the previous assessor, first took office as assessor in January of 1989. Served the county for many years. He did a very good job and very appreciative of his service. He was more recently elected to office of May in 2008 for a term which is set to expire January 7th of 2013. On August 31st of 2011, Mr. Ross did submit a letter of resignation as the county assessor, which was to be effective August 31st of 2011. Mr. Chair, what I'd like to explain is, based on references in the article that you had previously referred, a amendment to the county charter to make the assessor as well as a couple of other positions appointed, which failed, and that now you're then turning around and appointing someone basically flew in the face of the electorate. Offer some clarification to that, Mr. Chair. This does not negate the public's ability to vote for who they want to be elected as assessor. And contrary to that, it actually complies with the will of the voters based on our Jackson County Home Rule Charter. Jackson County is a home rule county. And in our county charter, section 23, item 1, anyone in the public would like to reference that, go to our website and pull up the Jackson County Home Rule Charter, which was approved by voters, and see that the county charter states specifically that the board shall, for those of you who may not understand the legality, complexity of the word shall, it means you have to, you don't have a choice. In the manner provided now or hereafter by the laws of the state of Oregon, appoint any person otherwise qualified to a vacant elective county office to serve until that person elected at the next general election takes office. So in this case, there will be an election held. The public will have the opportunity to elect who they choose to elect, but based on the will of the voters as directed by our county charter, you shall, in other words, you're required to appoint someone to fill that remainder of the existing term until a new person takes office. The person elected at the time of the election will serve the balance of the unexpired term if there were an unexpired term. In this case, there won't be an unexpired term because there's a short amount of time until the expiration of the current term. I'd also like to clarify, Mr. Chair, that under Oregon law, when there is a vacancy in any elective county office, and this refers to offices other than the office of county judge or county commissioner, the county court, or in our case, the county board of commissioners, shall appoint a person to perform the duties of the office until the vacancy is filled by election. For anyone who would like to research that, it's ORS 236-210, item 1. Both of these issues were not addressed in the article nor the editorial written by the Mail Tribune. For purposes of your consideration of Mr. Gibson, before a person appointed can take office, that person shall qualify in the same manner as required by law of the office in whose place the person is appointed. There are specific requirements in state law for being able to appoint someone to this position that that person must meet. That is for the public for the purpose of the public who may want to investigate. That is Oregon Revised Statute 236-210, item 4. That talks about the eligibility requirements. In this case, in Chapter 204 of Oregon Revised Statute, a person would not be eligible to be a candidate for election or appointment in this case to the office of the county assessor unless, and there are a couple of criteria, the person has qualified as a registered appraiser or as an appraiser trainee under ORS 308-015. That's ORS 308-015 for anyone who'd like to further investigate it. And if an appraiser trainee notwithstanding ORS 308.015, they must then become a registered appraiser within 2 years after taking office. And item number 2 is that the person either has 2 years of office and accounting experience, which must include experience in office management activities, or they have 2 years of full-time employment in the office of a county assessor. That's ORS 204.016 sub 4 for anyone who may want to further investigate that. This statutory requirement for meeting this criteria is regulated by the Oregon Department of Revenue. It's not regulated by the Board of Commissioners, so you don't get to decide whether or not someone meets the qualifications. It's the Oregon Department of Revenue that gets to decide whether or not they meet the qualifications. Mr. Chair, there was some questions that the county was forwarded through our county web system, once again based on some incomplete information in the Mail Tribune's article about the public hearings process. The county charter says you shall appoint someone for this position. It doesn't say that you shall hold a public hearing. In fact, there's no criteria in law anywhere that I'm aware of or county council's aware of that requires you to hold a public hearing. The law regarding public meeting does mean that you shall deliberate and decide in a public meeting that's provided proper public notice. The newspaper article suggested that you had already deliberated and made a decision and not provided proper public notice. However, the newspaper and the person reporting in the article didn't talk to you as a board or a governing body. They talked to you as individual commissioners. So for purposes of explanation to the public, as an individual commissioner, you're certainly entitled to your individual opinions, which you provided to the newspaper, who then took that to interpret it that you had made a decision as a governing body. There were some questions about whether or not you adequately follow public meeting law requirements. In this case, Mr. Chair, there was adequate public notice prior to 24 hours in advance of the meeting that you would deliberate on this item today. There was the scheduling of this item by that notice, and it's on your agenda here today. This is the public meeting. This is your opportunity to deliberate and make the decision as a governing body, regardless of your individual positions that were presented to the newspaper. I think I covered most of the issues that were raised to the county based on the article in the Mail Tribune. I appreciate you allowing me to take the time to do that. And of course, if you have any questions, I'm available to answer them.
Any questions of the administrator?
I have no questions. The comment, if you will, Mr. Chair, is
no questions of standing.
Okay, all right, Mr.
Okay,
Scudder.
just the comment is that in my conversation with Mr. Gibson individually, when I met with him in my office, we talked about his qualifications and such for the office and his desire to be appointed. He answered my questions, I thought, very adequately, and at that time, again, by myself, just he and I didn't say this to Mr. Gibson, but in my own mind, I thought, well, this is a good, probably going to be a good choice, if that is the choice, because number one, he's qualified. That's first, most important. Number two, he operates within the organization now, and why that's important is a structure, and as we work on it to keep things going kind of smoothly. And number three, which actually goes with number two, is it's for 1 year. Is all. If we'd have been looking, maybe this had happened halfway through the first year of Mr. Ross's term, I might have looked at this a little bit different. But this is 1 year. Primaries in May. If Mr. Gibson should choose, and any other candidate would want to choose, then they have that opportunity to go through the campaign and go through the election process. So, given those facts, in my own mind, like I say, as I made up, I thought this was he would probably be a very good choice. So, that was my thought process.
Thank you, Commissioner Skundrich. Commissioner Rasher.
Well, since we haven't deliberated about this before, I'd like to deliberate a little bit about it. You know, I believe in Josephine County recently they've had to pick a new commissioner, and they've had a 30-day timeline. They had to do that. Well, I understand we didn't have a timeline, and I think the fact that we waited was good because it let the cream rise to the top, so to speak. Originally, my choice for this appointment would have been, was Scott, before Dan resigned, referred to as the deputy assessor?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, if I might, I don't mean to interrupt your deliberation, but I offer a little explanation about that. Okay, there was also reference in the article that you had previously appointed Scott Frederickson to serve as the assessor. You did not appoint Scott Frederickson. There was never a formal action by the board to do that. I believe the confusion by the Mail Tribune, once again, who obviously didn't research the law before they made that statement, was that Scott Frederickson was the chief deputy assessor, and by Oregon law, the chief deputy assessor has the authority to perform the functions required by the assessor in the assessor's absence, but also by law, he still is required to maintain his position as chief deputy assessor. And so in the interim, prior to you appointing someone, between the time Dan Ross left and your decision today or not to appoint someone, the law provides for some of the work that would be only accomplishable by an assessor to be done. An example is certifying the roll. It's the assessor who has to certify the roll. The law expected that at times an assessor, even if they were in office, may not be available to do that, and so they provide for in the law the ability for the chief deputy to perform those functions in the absence. With that said, Scott Frederickson is the chief deputy. However, he does not have an interest in serving as the interim, nor does, as he indicated to me, nor does he have an interest in running for the office, even though he has been there and worked there for a long time and is very knowledgeable and capable as well.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other?
Well, and that's what the point I was wanting to make is we could have appointed Scott back then, but if he didn't want the job, you know, that would have been the wrong decision. Now, Josh has come forward and said that he wants the job. I have a little concern in that we might be this might be the nail in his coffin if we appoint him to that position and then he loses in the election if he decides to run then. Well, he could be out of a job. So we need to take that in consideration. But I'm sure he knows the risks. So with that in mind, you know, I'm in favor of appointing him to that position, even though there's risk involved for him.
Yeah. Thank you very much. You know, I've been involved with government for close to 30 years, and I've seen people come and go. I've seen department heads come and go and quickly replaced. I've seen elected officials come and go, either resigning or recall, and I was actually one of the candidates proffered in a recall effort some years ago, and I remember that process, and it was very long and very laborious. There's a couple of things that need to be said, and I want to make very clear. You know, in the course of our duties as county commissioners, we are entitled to our individual opinions prior to making a final decision in a public meeting. And I offered what my opinion was, or how we may be leaning on an issue prior to a final decision, which we constantly, you know, we'll get a call from news media wanting to know, how do you feel about this or that, and we the most recent issue was the chicken ordinance in White City, as you all may recall. You know, our individual decision or opinion does not constitute a decision by the whole body or board or the governing body. It is one of three. This is a legislative body, and we've publicly noticed it appropriately. We individually told staff to proceed with placing the appointment for our consideration today. I want to acknowledge that we are a home rule charter, and as such, we can and have been directed by the electorate by the language in the charter that we can proceed in this particular manner in which we are proceeding. So the electorate has spoken. You know, in replacing certain elected officials when the seat is vacant, and in this case it was rather sudden. It was at a difficult time for the office, and I know it was a difficult decision for Assessor Ross, but nonetheless, that is a working department. And our elected officials are working elected officials. They're not there as legislative or anything else. They are executive officers who are working, and those departments must be operating at full tilt at most of the time. And given the reduction in staffing that the assessor's office has gone through, they've been going through quite a bit. So it was my opinion that when I had the opportunity to individually interview with Josh, I realized that he could hit the ground running, I did ask him. I says, you know, Josh, this is very tenuous. There is going to be an election, and if you choose to run or not to run, there will be a series of folks that will be coming want the position. So you need to understand that that's the rules, and that's how it's done. And he understood those risks when I spoke to him about it, and so I'm surprised. I'm surprised that. This issue got represented in a way that made it appear as though that we'd done something untoward or inappropriate, and it appears as though we've followed every aspect of the legal requirements and our charter and so forth. And I'm disappointed that I did get a couple of emails from folks that saying, how dare we attempt this? But this is in replacement. It's an interim appointment for 1 year. There is going to be an election. The citizens are going to be making decisions. And as you know, the candidates are starting to come out of the woodwork. One in particular has been very vocal about this issue. But the problem is Scott's there. He knows what's going on. He's Josh. I'm sorry. Josh is there. He knows what's going on. He's operationally in line on everything. So it'll be a nice, smooth transition. And whoever is elected in the coming election, they will have a nice, smooth transition to roll in. As you know, we go to great pains to orient all newly elected officials prior to taking office. So they're prepared when they walk through the door. They just don't walk in and start work. We do make a great effort on making sure elected officials, and I think you two gentlemen are a great testimony to that effort on making sure that you had a lot of information available to you before taking office. So with that said.
Mr. Chair, I move that we accept Board Order 274-11, appointing County Assessor Josh Gibson to the position.
I will second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Stewart.
Yes.
Commissioner Rashford.
Yes.
Commissioner Smith.
Yes. Item so ordered and approved. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, there being no further business before this board, I hereby adjourn this meeting, and thank you all for attending.
You want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays, and safe travels if you're traveling, and have a great 2012.
And a lot of our folks are celebrating Hanukkah, so Happy Hanukkah as well. And how about John? Do you have any comments for the holidays?
No, I've got to start my shopping any day.
Everybody drive carefully. Merry Christmas to you all, and thank you.
Thank you.
You've been watching the weekly Jackson County Board of Commissioners meeting, held every Wednesday morning at 9:30. If you have any questions or comments, you can contact the commissioners at 774-6116. You can also visit www.jacksoncounty.org and click on Video and TV Center to view many of the county's latest public meetings, informational videos, and studio programs.